allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everyone for coming and everyone on TV watching. First thing is the oath of our new alderman. Rick, would you come forward, please?
If you would like to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Rick Owsley,
I, Rick Owsley,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution,
that I will support the Constitution,
the laws of the United States,
the laws of the United States,
the state of Missouri,
the state of Missouri,
and the ordinances of the city of Hermann.
and the ordinances of the city of Hermann,
And I will faithfully demean myself
and I will faithfully demean myself
and perform all the duties of the office
and perform all the duties of the office
for which I have been appointed,
for which I have been appointed,
and I possess all qualifications
and I possess all qualifications
prescribed for said office.
prescribed for said office.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. And you may have your seat. And if I could have you make it official here and sign your oath of office. Right there, please.
Welcome.
Very good.
You bet. Welcome aboard, sir. Thank you. Okay, I have a small report. I want everybody to be aware, in the last couple of days, there's been 4 more COVID virus cases reported in Gasconade County. If I understand it correctly, all 4 of them are related. I don't know if they're related family-wise or but related incident, and it was reported that it was from travel. They are isolated and quarantined, and that's all the information we really have. So that brings a total of 6 to Gasconade County for this period. 2 of them are cured and the 4 active that have just come up this week. Also, everyone be aware that the first Friday of August and ending at midnight on that following Sunday, there's a holiday sales tax on clothing, computers, and school supplies per the Missouri Chapter 144 sales tax, use tax. So just so everybody, if you can take advantage of that. I want to say a big thank you to our water department. I don't know, many people aren't even aware, but we had a very major water leak last week, and the guys, 3 or 4 in the morning, worked till 5 or 6 at night to get it taken care of. And at the same time, there was also a gas leak up on the end of 4th Street. I just want to say thank you to the people that we have that do that job. I don't think, I know the water towers were low, but it's good that we have these people to take care of these problems. So hats off to them. And then the only other thing, and I'm going to let Mark talk about it in his report, is the progress on the street initiative. So, City Administrator.
Okay. As the mayor mentioned, we do have some progress on West 18th. The engineer has let the bids for the first block of West 18th. The scope of the work includes curb and gutter, stormwater piping, concrete at the intersection, new pavement. The bids are due July 15 with a letter of recommendation from the engineer on July 27 for the board's approval. The large amount of truck traffic that accesses Peretti using 18th Street will be diverted to Frame Drive. We expect that truck traffic to further damage the already crumbling surface of Frame, so an overlay of that street is also included in the bid. Don't know when the contractor, once we approve everything, when he'll be able to start, but I would hope sometime in August. The city attorney's been in contact with the attorney representing the owner of the Bevco building at West 10th and Jefferson. DNR's remediation branch is also pushing to get some movement on the project. I will continue to report any progress as it happens. Bruce mentioned we had a big water main break on the east end of town last week. We had to call in Tri-County because of the depth of the of the pipe. We couldn't reach it with our backhoe. It was probably 14 feet deep. Tri-County did a great job of benching, digging out and benching and making the hole safe. The guys did a great job fixing that. We've also been laying water pipe and looking at our water infrastructure all over town the last couple of weeks. The latest flood reimbursement project that was started and approved by FEMA has now been handed to the state for further coordination of projects and payments. And along those same lines, I'll have a bid for you next BOA meeting for the reconstruction of the airport office. They had 3 to 4 feet of water in it for about 6 weeks. This is part of the flood disaster project and will be reimbursed by FEMA and by the state.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is Caboose Committee. We have,
Yeah. Dan. I guess I'll take all my time. Just to let you know where we're at, we're getting real close. We have a few more things to tie up. Got titled some pictures on the wall. We have 70 pictures on the wall.
Cool.
And place our display case. A few little paint touch-ups here and there. And I think then we'll be about ready for a soft opening coming up.
Looking forward to it.
If there's any questions or anything, I'm looking forward to this being handed over.
Do you have your electric there now?
Yes, we do have our electric, thank you. And we sure would like to see some more rock laid on the north side and to cover up some of the possible mud that we'll be seeing. But
Okay, sure. You can do that.
we could sure use a little of that. But,
Okay.
I'll turn the rest over to Harry.
That was Paul Eubanks, who actually is a retired railroad engineer. I'm just a fake. I'm Gary Liebman. This has been a 2-year since inception, one of those walks around town with Mayor Korber. And he said, well, if you want to see that caboose fixed up, start a committee. Next week he introduced me to Paul. And together we've had 11 volunteers, and we got a lot done. It was a whole lot more fun before COVID meant we were working alone. Like I was today and Paul was a couple of days ago. But we're still getting it done on time. We postponed the big 4th of July party we had planned, which is required by our grant from the Missouri Humanities Council, which means we're going to have it, but at some future date, maybe as far off as next year. Question, Mark Wallace has been in the caboose and gave us some guidance about safety issues. Would you want to visit again before we open on the 4th of July?
Sure.
Or does Lee need to come, or
Sure.
whatever you want?
Take a look.
But why don't you call me or Paul and
Sure.
we'll set something up.
Okay.
It's going to be crowded on the 4th of July, so I don't just mean the caboose, I mean the whole Freedom Fest. I'd like to section off that front area, which is like 3 or 4 parking spaces, so that children running around or waiting in line, because for safety, we're going to have a committee volunteer at both ends, and we're going to control the number of people or families that go in at one time. So if we had that sectioned off, that'd be great. I've got yellow tape, but if you've got something more solid you'd like to have there, let us know. Is the city renting or is the chamber renting porta potties for the event? I was wondering if we could get 1 or 2 within that border.
I don't believe they are. I think with the riverfront bathrooms and the train station, I'm thinking that they think they have enough.
Okay. Mark, could you help us? The curbs going into that whole area are very faded yellow. We would do it if you provide us paint, or if you could, a team who could do it. And if we do it, let us know how to do it. Do we pressure wash it first and clean it real well?
I can ask Todd and the street department to take care of that.
Okay. Our first of 2 ads in the next 2 Wednesdays will be in the AC, just simply saying that we're going to be open from 5 to 9 on 4th of July. In the parade, we may have, anybody seen that little train made out of barrels that Cody, I can't think of his last name, he volunteered to let us put a banner on that says Caboose Open, Caboose Museum. I should start using that word more often. Even though we're really amateurs, we didn't have much guidance, we had the good fortune that Type Styles people, Kathy and Tom Durham, had a great sense of what it should look like, and it really looks good. So, now I get to the hard part, finances. We're about $4,000 short on this $25,000 project. I've got a letter ready to go out to the people who have donated before, figuring it's a new year and maybe somebody who donated 100 would give another 100. But the city was generous to pay for the paint last year, which was $2,000, and was wondering if in this budget, general fund or anything, there might be $2,000 so I could cut this distance, or if I fall short, could I come back to the city in the end for possibly $2,000? To avoid falling short, I have an idea. Don Melsha, a photographer, retired railroad guy actually, gave us about 50 photos. But we didn't need to hang those photos. We made great copies through Type Styles, and that's what's on the wall. So we've got these that we could sell and maybe raise several $100s. Would I need, this is a city event, it's a city museum. Do we need to get a business license or a permit to have a table or a booth kind of thing on the 4th of July to be selling some things?
Tricia?
Vendor?
The money's going to the caboose.
The money would help
Yes, I
for
don't
this
know.
nonprofit
No,
volunteer.
since it's about the city,
Okay. That's about it then.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. It's looking great down there.
Thank you.
I know you guys have put a lot of time and effort in it.
And when we're really ready, I will advise you, if the BOA wants to have a private showing, we'll work that out before the 4th.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move on to citizens' comments. Mike Sloan.
do you want me to find anybody?
Yeah, 3 to 5 minutes is what we're trying to do.
Stop me at 7. So, congratulations those of you who have won election or changed seats. I'm here tonight to report to you a self-violation of a ordinance. And this ordinance is in section 3610-135. And it pertains to heating devices outside of establishments, of which I have one. And my comments on this starts back in March, early March, when COVID started, the pandemic started, social distancing started. And many businesses were shut down or at half or perhaps quarter capacity. And we were no different. We did that. I found myself closing at noon on Saturdays and going home. The first real impact of this to me was on Worst Fest Saturday. And I've been involved with the Worst Fest for 42 years. And I found myself home in my recliner on Worst Fest Saturday, instead of being busy like I normally would be. And I did not like it at all, being at home in my recliner on a Worst Fest Saturday. So that process continued with visitors or non-visitors to Hermann. But what happened was that on most Saturdays at noon when I closed, and that's against my DNA, but that's what I was doing. I would go to one of the gas stations and I would buy a newspaper and I would fill up the gas and go home on Saturday at noon. And as I'm getting gas at some of the gas stations, there'd be a tremendous amount of people at the gas station buying food. Hot dogs, roller dogs, potato chips, whatever they could find, because there was nothing open. So I decided to do some research. And my research involved, now I'm getting to May, it was after My Fest, or what should have been My Fest, but before Memorial Day. Again, I closed at noon, sent all my staff home, and I conducted a barbecue on my front sidewalk, just to see what would happen. So I had 2 little Weber grills, pork steaks, hot dogs, brats. 2 people, myself and maybe my wife. And it wasn't long before we had a pretty big crowd. And they were buying barbecue on the street, going to eating the barbecue on First Street, both sides, wherever they could find a curb. Some went to Riverfront Park, some went to 10 Mill Brewery on the patio. 10 Mill was closed, of course. Some went to Unkin's loading dock to eat barbecue. And I thought, well, okay, there might be a need for this type of activity outside. Knowing that with the pandemic, new restrictions, most restaurants, such in my case, went from 110 chairs to about 45. Now I'm starting to bring that 45 back a little bit. So what I was seeing is it's safer to eat outside than it is inside. Whatever. So that prompted me to buy a bigger grill. And that's what I did. I also knew that there was in town 3 other establishments that have outside heating devices and have had for many, many years. So I would hope that perhaps in this year 2020, when nothing is normal anymore, that the Board of Aldermen would consider looking at that, looking at the ordinance and consider maybe changing or altering or suspending, since you're probably not enforcing it now anyways, through the year 2020 to see what happens. If this time in history and events goes away, we're good. If it doesn't go away, it's here to stay with social distancing of inside activity. In addition to that, last month I was on the agenda to ask for some changes in the appearance of the front of the Worst House before the Landmark Committee. And I did not get my drawings drawn up in time. So I'm going to move my request to the Landmark to July. Part of that request is the addition of the smoker grill that I have on the outside. And I can tell you what, the closer I get that thing to my front door, the more people seem to like it. But part of the addition is that heating device. Part of the addition request, this is our request, is to build a arbor on the front of the Worst House. And I'm just telling you this in general because I know I gotta go to Landmarks first. To build an arbor for a covering over this device, heating, smoking device. Also, another addition that I'm looking at is I've reduced the hours, open hours, currently. I mean, I was open 60 some hours a week. I went down to about 25 hours a week. and I'm still not back to my 60. I've reduced my hours of operation by 15 hours per week, simply to help protect some of my staff from exposure and to limit activity in the store. My other idea going forward is on the outside where I'm assembling this process is to purchase a meat vending machine. A meat vending machine that I'm looking at, I first saw it in 2016 in Germany. And there is one other of these units in the state of Missouri. There's a few of them in Minnesota and Wisconsin. A meat vending machine would help to implement more hours of operation while still being closed. The meat vending machine would have, it's awesome, it's cheese
You said 7
curds.
minutes, Mike, you're almost on 8.
I don't hurry it. It would have pork chops, pork steaks, bratwurst, jerky, cheese curds. So my total investment in the front of what I'm looking at down the road before October, I'm looking at $40,000 to $45,000. So it's a major investment. But there's no way to invest inside the building because there's nothing else there. It's locked. So I'm looking to go outside the building and create a 24-hour process to purchase things of that sort. That's all I got. Thank you.
Mike, just one question. You can do all this without restricting that sidewalk to legal amount,
Yes.
or you have to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's an 8-foot, and for some reason that sidewalk there is really wide.
It is wide, yes.
So there, in the minutes, 9 years ago, when we asked for and received permission to do what we're doing 9 years ago, the minutes are stated I had to allow 8 foot, which we do.
Okay.
You know, I understand where he's coming from, that particular weekend, it was pretty amazing, but with what he's doing, when he's got smoke going out there, it draws people, it draws customers. You know, the other thing is, with that ordinance, I think, you know, with all our ordinances, they're there for a reason, but I think we need to have leniency to a certain degree on some of them. You know, I mean, like Das Primos says those like things, you know, with the cards, so anyway, I think his presentation's good. I think it's something that we need to consider. You all are the ones that have to make that decision.
The Weber kettle deal would give me a little pause.
And that
Though
was,
the reason he had, because those could be knocked over.
yeah.
What you have there now is quite a bit.
And that Weber grill was part of my research to see if it was gonna work or not.
Yeah.
I think it worked.
But it was amazing. It was kind of like moths to a flame down there. I guess technically is what it was.
And part of the process too, real quick, is I paid for that outside space, and I have not been able to use much of that outside space this year, so I'd like to use it.
I've got to say, I never thought I'd hear the words meat vending.
Thank you, Mike.
So Mike, which ordinance did you reference? I don't have them all memorized yet.
I don't need it. Section 3, 610-135.
Okay, section 3, do it one more time, a little slower for us.
Okay, section 3, 610 dot 135.
Thank you.
We will look into it for you. Any other questions, or you guys? If not, Scott?
Wanted to bring up a couple things. You guys have an ordinance already on the books about having signs or numbering on the houses, and apparently it's not being followed now. As opposed to passing an ordinance, and if you are going to pass it, go ahead and enforce it, and I prefer that you guys start writing tickets just before election time so people know what the heck you guys are doing. Maybe more than 600 people will go ahead and vote. But and I know they're only $1 per day fine, but the one thing I might mention, I wanted to show you, the lumberyard doesn't even have 4-inch numbered signs. They do have brass ones, but they don't have the sticker type. The second thing I wanted to let you know is in the world of Google today, and I know he was worried about, Jim was worried about campaigning, this is a list off of my phone. This is all the people that are registered to vote in that ward. And it wasn't that hard to be able to put those addresses in and find them. Probably the only place in Hermann that had a problem was 13th Street versus 13th Place, because Google, a lot of people just put 13 and don't designate which one it is, so that address, particularly because there's apartments or whatnot. As opposed to passing an ordinance and doing this, why don't we, as a city, maybe go towards the fire department, who had to cancel the golf thing, or the Boy Scouts or some other community organization, and encourage them to use this as a fundraising event. The second part is when you guys are doing the streets, one of the things you could do as well would be to paint the numbers on the street, as someone's going up to that area or whatnot.
On the curbs.
On the curbs. Either one of those things would be a lot more sense and would be more compliant, it wouldn't require compliance in that case, than passing an ordinance that probably is not going to be complied with anyway. I just wonder why we're just trying to be the nanny state, and I would encourage you to look at that a little differently. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to ordinances. I believe.
Yes. The first, which is on for second reading, is bill number 2020-13, which would be an ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a municipal services contract between the city of Hermann, Missouri and Lee Regal.
I move Bill 2020-13, second read.
Have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay, nay. So moved. On the next ordinance, which is in reference to what Scott was just talking to, I would like us to actually table that, and the reason being is I think, like he said, we should get involved with the fire department, the ambulance, and just do a little more homework and see if we can come up with a better solution. I mean, I've had a couple phone calls and emails that I think the 4-inch thing is great. I voted for that, when we talked about it. But there's a lot of homes that have 3.5, 3 inches that are levelable from the road. I think, personally, what I think is if their address is legible from the road, that it should be allowed. What we need to enforce is all the residents and businesses that don't have any numbers at all. And I don't know how we go about that, but I just think that we need to back up a step and look at it, So I'm recommending to table it.
Jim, this is your baby. I mean, we had discussed a week or two ago about getting the Boy Scouts and fire department and everything involved in this.
Yeah, Mark had came up with the idea, suggested get a community project going, which I'm for that. Maybe the scouts could help put up the numbers. I know as far as research, and that was brought up the first time I brought it up, and it is in the building code, and it is in the residential code, it is in the fire code. I don't know what more investigation we could get. I knew I had done my homework many months ago, and I've had these in my Alderman book for almost a year. That's a 4-inch number that come from Orscheln's, and yes, you're correct. Hermann Lumber does have a 3-inch, $2.50 a number. Now, my intent on this was to, as the mayor alluded to, is first, let's go for the ones that do not have numbers, of those that do not, the numbers are not legible or faded. But in order to do that, I think we should update this ordinance. Because if we do want to get involvement, community involvement project going, it's going to be hard to get a project going without having a law on the books saying that we could do that. That's the only thing there, and we agreed that we would not actively enforce this until the 1st of 2021.
Well, I just think it needs to be tabled first to work on it a little bit. That's what I would recommend.
I know the last vote we had majority of the votes to approve it. And I'm not hesitant to put it off till Alderman Linger would be back, but one way or the other, I think we need to update an ordinance that's 51 years of age. Our building inspector supports it 100%. Our code enforcement officer supports it 100%. And as Mark alluded to, we need to maybe get input from our law enforcement, fire department, and EMS service.
And that's a good reason right there to table it.
And if
We
we
need more input.
If we can get those people in 2 weeks, a representative of the first responders, to have them appear and talk with it. I mean, I was in 2 of those 3 positions in law enforcement and EMS, and I know how important it is to be able to get to an address without having to stop to look. So I'll make a motion to postpone for 2 weeks and give us time to investigate and have members of the first responders, not the whole fire department, police department, and EMS, but a representative to bring in their ideas.
So I think, well, you have a motion on the floor, but I think what you need to do is, I don't think 2 weeks is enough time. I think if you're gonna get the fire department and EMS together, you need to, it doesn't have to be all the aldermen, 1 alderman, 2 aldermen. Have a meeting with them instead of wasting everybody's time here to come down with some ideas and see if the Boy Scouts would want to get involved also with helping people put them on the buildings and so forth. Again, you know, I go back to the last couple of years, rush, we gotta get this stuff done. It's been on the books for the 50s, we don't have to get it done tonight. Let's look at it and try and, you know, take a little bit of time and get their input and then move forward at a later date. That's my recommendation.
And I know what you're saying, and part of the things I've found, though, we have brought up issues at board meetings, and I've been sitting here a year, and those issues are still been sitting there a year later. Things we've talked about we want to do, but they get caught up in the spinning of the wheels. So I think in 2 weeks' time that if we want to contact the first responders, and it shouldn't take more than a half hour to an hour, saying, how do you feel about this ordinance? We're suggesting go to a 4-inch in height and be placed upon near the main entrance of the business or building. 99%, 99.9, I'm thinking they're gonna say that's great. And that's it. Like,
You're wanting them to come to this meeting in
Well,
this chamber,
if you
instead of
wanna-
having you know, 2 of the aldermen, or the alderman, myself, 1 alderman, have a meeting with them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if we go one-on-one and go to, I would like to see we get a representative from each of the first responders instead of the whole, do the fire department, the police department, and the EMS, have one common meeting, their spokesperson, and if you want someone, I'll sit on the board on that
Well,
meeting and we can come up with a solution or get their input.
I think we need to have a meeting, but I don't think it has to be in the chamber. I think it can be with the city administrator, and you invite somebody from each department, and,
That'd be fun.
yeah. But I think 2 weeks is a little too short. I think we're gonna need more time. So we have a motion on the floor for 2 weeks.
The second meeting in July is the 20th. Would that work for you, Jim? Sorry, it would be the 27th, correct, Tricia?
Right.
Okay.
So
That would give 4 weeks to get everybody together and talk about everything. Would that work for you?
that would work.
Change your motion from 2 weeks to 4 weeks?
Well, he made the motion.
That's why I'm asking him if he would change his motion.
So I'll make a motion on July the 27th.
Yes.
That we would have some information regarding the input from the first responders upon ordinance 2020-15, in reference to increasing the size of the numbers 4 inches.
Motion on the floor, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. All right, moving on,
All
Mr.
right,
Foley.
will do. Next on for first reading is bill number 2020-16, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 2148 regarding the budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. And so you have an ordinance in your packets that highlights the changes or proposed changes to the budget.
Any discussion on that?
I move Bill 2020-16 first read.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
And next is bill number 2020-17 for first reading. An ordinance authorizing the execution of an agreement for services between the city of Hermann, Missouri and the Hermann Area Hospital District and Groups Incorporated.
Any discussion? We have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that ordinance 2020-17 be approved, first read.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
On to resolutions.
And resolutions.
The first is a resolution to describe facts and reasons for a necessary amendment to the city's budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. And for the newcomers, the state statute says that whenever a city passes an ordinance to amend a budget, it shall also consider and pass a resolution to describe facts and reasons which make the budget amendment necessary. Now, typically, we would just put those facts and reasons in recital paragraphs in the budget amendment ordinance, but it seems a little duplicative to do it this way, but we're just dotting i's and crossing t's.
Okay.
I move to approve resolution number 1284.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Next resolution.
Next is a resolution to identify to the Missouri Ethics Commission the established method of disclosure of potential conflicts of interest and substantial interests by certain officials, officers, and employees of the city of Hermann.
You all understand what that one's about? I have a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 1285.
Second.
No, I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
So carried. Okay, moving on. Any old business?
Well, I guess under old business, I chatted the Mayor Bruce and Alderwoman Linger and Alderman Fairburn. I'll get it. At our last meeting where we had to meet in reference to owner unoccupied guest house in R2, and our city attorney had alluded that, you know, we the board can make the decision, but it's not stipulated in, it's under section 42110 for R2 family residential. I would like to put before the board to adapt it or amend the section for R2 to include the verbiage that's in section D on 42100, particularly paying to that if it is an unoccupied residence shall have a manager that lives within 10 miles of the city. I would like to add that with court's approval to the current ordinance.
Discussion?
I mean, you know, I thought it was in there. I mean, it was, I really believe the way it was written, that was already the rule. And there was a dang good reason for that rule. in an emergency, we need somebody close by that can be contacted. I'm not trying to disparage anybody that lives further away than that, but there was a lot of discussion when we came up to that limit. And I mean, even planning and zoning thought that was a rule because of the way it was written, and if it's not, it needs to be, so.
The planning and zoning had suggested that, and it's in there for R1. I think we should incorporate those same regulations into R2.
You understand what they're talking about? Okay. Well, that was pretty well your consensus at the last meeting with the other,
Yeah.
with what went down last meeting.
I didn't know if we needed to.
Does that need to be in a
Vote
motion
on it.
form?
It doesn't need to be in a motion. I've got the marching orders, and we'll have a draft of that ready for you at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other old business? New business?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am the Board of Alderman liaison for our Landmarks Commission. We have had some problems. Whether intentional or accidentally, we've got some loopholes that need to be closed. These guys have been asking me for help from the Board of Aldermen, and that's what I'm trying to do here tonight. Our historic buildings are the heart and soul of our town. When they're gone, they're gone. We need to protect these. That's why we have a Landmarks Commission. These people give guidance and instruction to people when they redo these buildings to try to keep them within the parameters that keeps our certified local government rating going. It has been the deal in our ordinances, whatever, that if you're doing roofing or siding on a building, that comes under general maintenance. Well, I'm sorry, but if you're re-siding a house or putting a whole new roof on it, that isn't regular maintenance. That is construction, and you should have a building permit for it. We had an incident here just a few weeks back in the historic zone. Thank God it was not a contributing building, where people thought they were doing regular maintenance and they sided the building that they should not have sided. Now, it's already done. We can't get away from that, but it was done because they felt they didn't need a building permit. Well, they didn't need a building permit, but they were supposed to have gone before landmarks. I really believe this needs to be changed in our ordinances, that if you're putting a new roof on a house or you're putting new siding on a house, that you need a building permit for it. Now, my major concern with these people in the Landmarks Commission is our historic district. Now, I honestly don't see why it's not that way all over town, but tonight I'm asking for help with landmarks to protect and preserve our historic buildings by making
Have you talked to Lee?
no, I haven't. I wanted to talk to you guys first. I didn't realize Susan wasn't going to be here tonight. But
I think maybe that you need to get his input on it. I can see the landmarks needing teeth in a lot of avenues.
mm-hmm.
But I think you need the input from the building inspector and see what he.
Well, I have no problem with
No,
that.
I mean, just see what he recommends. This is what he does, and he does it here in New Haven, so.
Is anybody here against this?
With recommendations.
I think, I agree with what Dave's saying, that regardless if you're in the historical zone or not, that if you're doing major renovation, i.e. a roof, sidings, that the contractor should have, number one, a license to do so within the city, and then that needs to come to the city, then we can approve, and then we won't have blood on our face, come to find out that, you know, and that's happened. I've been notified on different items, the garages went up, but they had no permit. You know, what do you do?
Or they were putting up a carport, and next thing you know, there's a garage there with guest rooms attached to
They
it.
got $10,000, $20,000 invested in a garage and it's built, what we're gonna do, tell them to tear it down?
Well,
That
I've seen a few where I would like to see it come to that. But we have houses in this town, historic houses over a century old, that people screwed siding into them. Those houses are ruined. Even if you take the siding off, that brick is not ruined. It can never be brought back. And like I said, these historic homes, once they're gone, that's been our major draw since we started getting tourism in this town. And they've got to be protected, gentlemen. So I will talk to Lee Regal about this, get his input on it. And I will come next meeting, hopefully I'll have some more for
All
you.
right, did you have something you want?
It-
You have a serious look on your face.
Is Landmark's point that we should require a building permit, or is it their point that if you install new roof or new siding, that you definitely need a certificate of appropriateness?
Well, they already need a certificate of appropriate.
Well, except for if you are replacing roofing with the same style as that exists, you don't need a certificate of appropriateness.
No, that's true, but they won't. I mean, we've discussed this in Landmark several times.
But I think the other problem is, these people just go ahead and do it without going to landmarks. We don't have any enforcement capabilities to come back on them.
For
Am I
certificates of
correct, Mark?
appropriateness, we do have enforcement now for building permits.
So if I'm replacing a black asphalt architectural shingle roof with another black architectural asphalt shingle roof, should I need a certificate of appropriateness?
Yes. David, if this is, you got a house 20 years old, it doesn't matter. When you've got a house 175 years old, it matters that that work is done correctly. I mean, the state, you got to meet certain parameters for this certified local government in the historic district. And if you don't meet those, there's a lot of benefits to having them.
Well, so that, my question is the same, though, that we can amend the certificate of appropriateness ordinance a little bit to make it clear that roofs need a certificate of appropriateness, but they still want them to have a building permit, I guess, are they saying, well, if you get a building permit, that'll be the
Okay.
check that we need to
Yes.
make sure?
It's the check and balance. You have a building inspector and you have an ordinance enforcement officer. Because believe it or not, people get their certificate of appropriateness and they do something completely different. And there it's kind of hard to do something about that. When you've got a building permit, it's a little easier. These guys sit here and people just basically thumb their nose at them instead of doing what they said they were going to do, and that's wrong. This isn't trying to be mean to anybody, it's protecting our heritage here. But I will get the head of the landmarks and the building inspector, and we'll sit down and talk and see what we can come together with on this.
Yeah, I would recommend that first and then come back.
Okay. Like I said, unless somebody here disagrees with this, at least in principle. Okay.
Any other new business? We'll move on to motions, the minutes. We have a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Come on, Rick.
I'll second. All in favor, aye?
Got that out of the way.
Aye.
So carried. Invoices for payments.
I move we pay the bill.
Well, that sounds familiar. Do I have a second?
I'll second that one.
First and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
So carried. Liquor license renewals. Any questions?
The chief didn't have any problems with any of them. I will move to approve.
Any motion to approve? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
First and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
No nays, so approved. Special event application for Bob Kirchhoffer for the band concert on July 4.
Move to approve.
I'll
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Special event application, Hermann Area District Hospital, the Firecracker 5K, various streets and sidewalks on the east side of town, also on July 4th. Motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second. Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Special event application, the Big Bam LLC, race finish line with music and vendors, Lower City Park, July 19th and July 28th.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion made to approve, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Special event application, Missouri Department of Conservation, CWD sampling swimming pool parking lot, November 13th through the 16th, 2020.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor aye.
Aye.
So carried. Special event application, Brian Grenneman Services, movie night at the amphitheater, July 10th and 11th. Motion,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
motion made and seconded, all in favor aye.
Aye.
So carried. No other further business? Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Now, the new Alderman's got to run in that 5K, right?
The what?
The new Alderman's got to run in that 5K, right?
I think we're in shape with well, that didn't hurt a bit, but they were getting. It didn't, so. It didn't hurt a bit.
Well, this one's pretty painless.
Yeah, that's so.
The TV camera stays on.
Hey, Mark,
Moving, I have a lot of things about it, moving upstairs.
she turned that on.